Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be joined by Anders Hansen. Anders, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it, Seth. Thank you for the opportunity. And like I said before we started, I love how you dive deep into these simple, relatively complex concepts, but bring it down to a simple level in a concise way. And so for those of you listening, leave a 5-star review for Seth and Kevin. Really
thank you very much. I didn't even ask him to do that, so I appreciate the shout out. So you've got a really interesting business and a really interesting journey on how you got there. Let's go back in time and talk about the magic of how you got started.
Yeah, it's certainly a story of contrast and some illusions in there. I call myself a recovering illusionist at this point. I arrived here from Denmark about 19 years ago with about 2 suitcases and a deck of cards, and I rebuilt my career in magic, performing magic for tips. Got my work visa approved, started doing shows for cruise lines, television, and then my health crashed, completely burned out. My business collapsed, my dad died, buried in debt. So it really couldn't get any worse than that. But that also became my turning point because I had studied personal development and the power of the mind for a while. And I ended up meeting Bob Proctor. He became a good friend, a good mentor. He and I created an award-winning show called Real Magic Live. And that's what I do today. I help conscious entrepreneurs rewire how they think about reality by removing those illusions so they can step out and create the quantum leap results, the income and the freedom that they deserve. And so far, we've helped 10,000 people, many entrepreneurs as well. And we've generated about a little north of 12 million in the process and leading a team of 5 beautiful superstars who are all committed to helping millions in the future. So that's a short version of the story, Seth.
That is a short version of an incredible story. And I'm sure that the longer version probably should fill a book somewhere if it hasn't already.
You're not the first one that encouraged me to do that. So I am going to put the idea out into the universe because now is the time to do it.
Awesome. And I'm a huge Bob Proctor fan myself. Now, you worked with magic and illusions for decades, and now you're helping people overcome limiting beliefs or their illusions. How do you define illusion in the context of personal development, and how do you figure out what our illusions are?
Love it. Such a good question. So an illusion is something that is wrongly perceived or experienced by your senses. That's the definition. Now, we are creating illusions all day long in our mind with wrongful ways of looking at ourselves, our potential, and our results. And after having worked with 10,000 individuals, I've condensed it down to 5 predominant illusions. So we fall into either one of these 5 categories. The first one is hustle and grind. Most people live with the idea in their subjective mind that time is money. It is probably the most expensive lie we've been told, right? But we do. So we work harder, run faster, hoping that will give us better results. And clearly it doesn't. The next one is luck. Sometimes we stake our hopes on something outside of ourselves. I lived in a city called Las Vegas, where the whole world travels to gamble on everything but themselves. So hoping that something outside changes. The third one is fear, like fearing what we don't want. And that's obviously not constructive. Lack and limitation is the fourth one. And the fifth one is knowledge, thinking that more information is going to do the trick. So we all fall into either one of those 5, but those, I would say, are the 5 biggest mental illusions preventing most entrepreneurs from really making it happen.
That makes a lot of sense. Can you talk about the show you created with Bob Proctor, Real Magic? Is that obviously Bob is no longer with us?
Right.
Is that content still available somewhere? It sounds amazing.
Yes, it is. He and I created a program called The Secret to Real Magic, and it's a 6-month program that we actually still facilitate. But Bob was very fascinated with the magic and utilizing that as a vehicle to help wake people's minds up. Because the truth is, Seth, we can only integrate ideas into our minds 3 ways: through fascination, agreement, or shock. Now, we rule out shock, then there's fascination and agreement left. Magic fascinates the mind for many of us. Now, when we at the same time teach his valuable lessons, they are being locked in there to a point where you can't forget about it, even if you tried. And that was Bob's sort of like appreciation for my way of working. And I loved, like you do, his depth of knowledge and content. And so it just became a natural, partnership at the time. And we're still carrying forth that legacy. So we have our live show called Real Magic Live, which is a 3-day experience around those concepts. And then we have our online coaching programs.
The online coaching program, I think, has 10 modules, if not more. Can you tease us, give us a trailer of what one of those modules might be?
Yeah, in fact, I'll give it away for anyone listening, and we can talk about that later, how we get into that. But the idea is most people don't understand themselves. We think that we are the body we live in. We think we are our thought patterns or whatever is coming back from the mirror or our past. And so that program helps us understand who we are at the core. We're a spiritual being living in a physical body, gifted with an intellect. Now, that program helps us develop the mental tools that's required for us to take control back of our reality. The world is moving faster than ever, but the content is really structured around the natural laws of the universe, and they never change. So as fast as the world is moving, the way to create better results will always be the same.
Who is an ideal client for the program?
Anyone who's an entrepreneur, who wants to make things happen, who understands that the stakes are with themselves. They can't bet on the government to fix things. They can't bet on any outside things. Like, we got to take responsibility. So it's really for anyone who's ready to take accountability and understand that the mind is the biggest factor here. Like Bob Proctor asked me when I never earned more than 40,000 a year. A blood test that said I was sick and nothing worked. And he said, Anders, how's your health? Not working. How's your wealth? Not working. Buried in debt. I mean, it wasn't good. And he said, what do you really want? And I said, well, I just want to get out of debt. He said, that's a terrible goal. And most people have that goal. We attract more of what we don't want. So what do you really want? And I said, then I want to turn my annual income into my monthly. But I don't know how. And he said, that's the illusion. You don't need to know how. You just need to follow a structure that can help you do it. So I didn't understand it at the time, but I did exactly what he told me. And 11 months later, I turned my annual income into my monthly. But I've broken a lot of illusions in the process. And that's really what this is about. It's not about more information. It's about adopting a new set of ideas and also a new self-image about what we believe we're worth. Because I think that's most entrepreneurs' really biggest stumbling block. They gather information, but they, at the end of the day, don't feel worthy of the success they deserve. And they create all these reasons as to why they can't do it in their mind.
I think you're absolutely right. How do you help us identify? I mean, you mentioned like the 5 core
Yep.
biggest
Yep.
illusions. How do we identify that we've got them? And
Yep.
then how do we use your process, not without giving away the secret sauce, obviously, to dispel those illusions?
Absolutely. I'll give it as much as I can. So we've actually created a free bundle kit for download where you can do exactly those 2 things. You can do our free self-assessment that makes you understand like what illusion is the most predominant in your life and what to do about it. No fluff, no hype. That's what it is, and that's what you get. Then you get the first module out of the program that Bob and I created. So you get a better understanding of the relationship of the mind to the body and how results are produced, so that we can experience momentum on the physical plane, but not overwhelm, just healthy momentum. And there's a priming process to it, and we give that away for free too. I'm a big believer, and Bob always taught me you can't give too much, and I truly believe it. So there's no fluff and hype. There is just a kit that we put together, and we can talk about how to download it at the end of the segment, Seth. But that's really it. So to answer your question, we got to understand where we are. First of all, what's blocking us, and then we get to work in overriding it. That will create momentum. guaranteed momentum. Now, if anyone feels compelled to join us on a longer journey, we can always talk about that. But regardless, I believe that that momentum will help a lot of people just on its own.
Absolutely. And thank you very much. I'm sure our audience will look forward to getting that bundle. Um, are you still using actual magic in the process?
Yes, I am. I'm glad you asked. So, in fact, if you are listening to this now on the podcast, go over to Seth and Kevin's YouTube channel and watch this episode, because this is a visual thing, but you will understand it regardless. So, Seth, here is a multi-dimensional domino brick. You see one dot here, you see four dots here, you see three dots here now, and then all of a sudden you see six dots here. And then you go, well, how did that happen, right? Our mind created a story that actually wasn't true on our behalf. The last thing we saw here was three dots. We finished a pattern in our mind. We've seen domino bricks before, so the mind finished the pattern. We don't see with our eyes, we see with our mind. So we saw either one dot or three dots. We'd never seen this pattern before, so we didn't see it. Same on this side, we saw six dots or we saw four. Now, our need to finish a story is so strong that the mind will make up a reason if it doesn't exist. So if I have beliefs that says I'm not worthy, I'll find reasons for it. On the contrary, if I have belief that says I'm a happy, healthy, wealthy multimillionaire, I'll find evidence for that too. So what we do here is we challenge those assumptions continuously. And if I have done this accurately now, you will see three dots here, and you should see about eight dots here. So there's an example of how we utilize magic, sort of as a natural tool to cement the point.
I love it. Great example. And first time anyone has ever performed magic live on the Sharkpreneur podcast. Thank you so much, Anders. Now, you mentioned continuing on with Bob's legacy and the program that you developed together. What's next for Anders and Real Magic?
I love it. So I just committed to my next Quantum Leap goal. We were having a host of different coaching programs. We were in multiple markets. I've scaled back, and I've taken a deeper leap into Real Magic Live and just expanding on that. We just invested like 3.5 million Danish kroners in the new version of the event. We just premiered it in Denmark. I engaged Cirque du Soleil's creative director, like one of the best music directors in the industry, to really take the event up to a higher level. We invested in really high quality projection technology, and that's where we're going. The world is moving towards live event experiences, educational, entertaining experiences. And Real Magic Live fills the bridge between a boring one-way seminar and a really engaging show. So there's a lot of boring experiences out there. You just sit and listen. And there's a lot of shows where you didn't get anything out of it. Like, I was in that industry for a lot of years, and I figured, let's make those worlds meet. Let's create something that is highly entertaining, engaging, educational, and that's what Real Magic Live is. And we're just committing now to 6 events next year. That's our quantum leap. So Real Magic Live at a high level, and then scaling back on our online coaching activities. We're still remaining, the program with Bob remains for now, but that's the direction we're going in.
That sounds absolutely incredible. Can't wait to see that or experience more about that. You've helped so many people and have achieved so much success. What's your biggest challenge now?
Numerous. My biggest challenge is making sure I stay in alignment with my goal. So I have fear and doubt creep in. You know, when you're in the middle of a quantum leap, there's fear, there's uncertainty. And in fact, Price Pritchett talks about it in his great book, U Squared. He says, in the middle of an operation, it looks like a murder has been committed in the operating room. In the middle of baking the beautiful cake, there's flour all over the place. So when you're in the middle of a quantum leap, and we are right now, we just made all these great investments with the event. We pre-sold 60% of the audience to the next event. So that's a good sign. But there's still a lot of new things that has to be learned. And I'm in the middle of that right now. I'm staying dialed into my goal, but man, is it challenging. The old paradigm, the old doubts, beliefs keep creeping in, you know. But what I've also learned, Seth, is one of the most dangerous things to do when you are growing is to go back to what you know works. It can actually become a mental crutch. So we're just plowing forward, but it's scary and it's exciting at the same time.
Well, it does sound it. Well, congratulations on that. You have talked about, I mean, the journey from Illusionist, which you're still doing, to dispel illusions is phenomenal. If you were to go back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
I would say go for it. Don't wait. Time, we don't know if we're guaranteed a day tomorrow. 200 and some thousand people are not having that privilege. I would say just jump, make the leap. You will find that you'll develop wings as you fly. And what other people think is none of your business. I grew up in a little city in Denmark where it really mattered what the neighbor thought. And I lived with that idea for the majority of my life. I was 28 years old and I was still running around here in Miami wondering what the neighbor thought. And then I realized it came from my mom. It came from her ancestors. So we have all this baggage. And what I would have done differently, Seth, is I would have sought professional mentorship sooner so I could have enjoyed the results longer. That is the only thing I would have done differently. Everything else was necessary.
You got to work with one of the most amazing people in the field of personal development in Bob Proctor. What was the best advice he ever gave you?
Oh, I have chills now just thinking about it. I was ready to go on stage we were backstage at his event. He invited me to speak at his event many times. And the first time I was really nervous. I had been for 20 years in the entertainment industry. And I think a lot of people can relate, when you're presenting and doing something. But I thought for some reason it stayed with me. I thought it was going to disappear over years and years, but it didn't. It just gained strength. So I was really nervous. My heart was racing, sweat on the forehead. Bob came up to me and he went, "You're really nervous, aren't you?" I'm like, "Mm-hmm." And he goes, "How dare you be nervous? That is so selfish. You're thinking about you. God damn it." And he was like shouting at me. He's like, "Think about the audience, the recipient. When you have something so valuable to share, stop thinking about you. Think about them and what you can deliver. Have fun with it." Then he smiled, pushed me on stage. And in that moment, I realized how selfish I had been for all those years. I had been thinking about me. My energy was inverted. What do they think of me? Am I good enough? I reversed that energy and started thinking about how I can leave them with a feeling of increase. And I kid you not, Seth, in that moment, all nervousness fell away and it never came back because I realized we're all just terminals for energy. And I think that's a healthy perspective, and that was one of the biggest lessons he taught me.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
Oh my gosh, it's so easy. It's all the transformations. Like we had a business the other day, one of our clients, she went from she went from 100,000 a month to over $1 million in a year and a half. Like following some of the same trajectories I had gone through. And I'm like, wow, that is so rewarding. And so obviously it's not the revenue, it's what it brings her in terms of freedom and family experiences and all of that. We had another client that rid herself from a disease she was told by the doctors she was going to have for the rest of her life. And all of a sudden it's gone. The doctors can't find it in her. Like that drives me as a person. As challenging as the road can be sometimes, that's what gets me up in the morning. Plus the difference we can make. I mean, we're supporting a charity, a 3-square food bank with meals for kids that otherwise would go hungry. And so it just deeply fulfills my soul. Like this is what I'm meant to do. And I'm very grateful for it.
That is beautiful. Well, we know your time's incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate you spending some of it with us. For our folks watching or listening who want to take advantage of that free bundle offer that you mentioned, what's involved? Where can they go to get it?
Yeah, so if they want to take advantage of that free Real Magic Reset Kit that we have, all you have to do is find me on Instagram or Facebook at Real Anders Hansen, and it's ANDERS HANSEN. So it's Real Anders Hansen in one word. And then just find one of our posts and type the word Sharkpreneur in one word on one of our posts, and then we'll send you that whole thing over absolutely for free right away.
All right. Well, thank you. Very generous offer. I'll be the first person to take advantage of this before this even airs. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Appreciate it, Seth. Thank you.
Thanks, Anders.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.